All right, I want to do a talk here on the problem facing our planet and why, with limits to growth, and what's powering growth. Okay, so growth is CAGR, compounded annual growth rate, growth, right? CAGR. I prefer CAGR, but I know the economists call it CAGR. The other thing that is part of our whole system is the startup. Startups are ideas. Startups come from internally. It's like new business opportunities to make money, right? CAGR leads to ROI, right? So think of CAGR as proof of growth, and ROI is proof of return, right? So these are two foundation blocks of our whole economic system. On top of these two blocks, right, are, you could say, our markets. You have the Tokyo Stock Exchange or the New York Stock Exchange, right? There's three big ones: the Tokyo Stock Exchange and the European Stock Exchange, right? Now, what's happened with the blockchain is now you have all these other exchanges, right? You have all these decentralized exchanges. There's actually more. So let's just put two of those. Originally, there was only a handful. Now there's really to the power, right, of them. All of these are putting more money, more fueling into startups, into ICOs and STOs, IEOs, whatever. Okay. On top of them, you can say you have your hedge funds, your investment firms, your VC firms, right? Capital. And guess what? Now, because of all the money made in 2017, there's all this, Bitcoin going up in price. There's a bunch more. These are decentralized ones. Originally, we had a set amount. Now we have just basically, just turned the tap off. I'm turn the tap on for it all. Okay. So those are those funds there, and they're all, funding new ideas and everything else. And then on top of them, you can think we've got the corporations, right? And traditionally, we only had $60 billion going in annually to launching new startups. They're all, funding new projects and everything else. And you have all the decentralized ones. But if I keep doing that, we're going to run out of blocks, right? So after them, you've got now the corporations and stuff that support. Okay, I'm trying to figure out which color I want. We'll go with yellow. These are the corporations, and the corporations ultimately, these are the banks, right? I'm sorry, the banks. I messed up here. The banks. You actually have the monetary funds. So the monetary funds actually release money, fiat money, to create more money to fund these banks, and the banks need more money to give out to loans, and there's endless supply of money on that. And then, on top of that, then you can think of it, we start thinking about, okay, what do we need to support all this? Well, we've got, oil. We got all this oil that needs to be used, right? And then we're running out of oil, but guess what? We've developed fracking. Yeah, it's fracking. So we have fracking. And then, then you start looking at other resources. Well, we need trees and materials and stuff that's going to fund all that. You can think of, well, then here's the gold, and here's the silver we need to make, and all the other kind of precious metals as they go. All right, let me lift this up a little bit. And and then ultimately, we start having other resources like our drinking water, and then we've got our oceans. And our oceans are pretty big, so we've got more oceans and so on. And look, I'm about to tip over already, and so on, right? And then we've got all the, we've got the sky. You can think of the air around us, and other things here. So there's more to it, but it gives you an idea. Like everything, there's only a finite amount of all this stuff, right? So here is our global economy. And really for the last, 200 years, we've been like, okay, we've polluted some of our air, our ozone went, and then basically we fished the cod out, and, the coral reefs died, or that was some silver that was from there, and maybe here goes the coral reefs. Our oceans are pretty precarious. We got dead zones, in our water. We have, the only thing is I painted these and I didn't think about them sliding out. And basically our whole planet is this game of Jenga, and it's just a matter of time. And there's no one putting stuff back, is there? And our whole system's going to collapse. I mean, it's predicted, right? This whole predicted, and it's all built on these two blocks that I talked about. Kaggle is this piece of broken code, and let me talk about Kaggle. Kaggle basically is an infinite agent that constantly grows. It's interacting with a finite planet, right? So all the problems facing our planet comes down to this one piece of broken code. Now, I discovered this in 2010. And when I discovered it, I was like, well, how the heck am I going to fix this, right? What are we going to do? Well, obviously, I couldn't go to Wall Street and say, listen, guys, you got to fix Kaggle. You got to, this is all screwed up, right? So what I realized was we needed to create a new sandbox. This is doomed. We are doomed. There is no stopping this if we stay on this. We're going to collapse. And if you don't believe me, there's a book called Limits to Growth by the Club of Rome from '72 that predicts this, okay? This is happening. It's going to happen, and it's going to happen between 2020 and 2060. I think it's going to happen around 2030, okay? So ultimately, with that in mind, imagine if instead we could create a new sandbox where we can encourage folks to leave this doom and gloom that's coming and move to this new one. And in order to build this new sandbox, we needed a way to basically, remove and change out this piece of code, right? Well, what I realized back in 2010, this sandbox would be the blockchain, right? Would be built on Bitcoin protocol. And using that, you could ultimately build any framework that you wanted for it. I'm trying to find my already written on blocks, which I can't find. Okay, so there it is, Kaggle. Okay, so Kaggle, compounded annual benefit rate. Okay, Kaggle. I'm going to talk about Kaggle, and the new one, instead of being the startup, would be called the found up, and I can't find the block, so it's probably under somewhere. So you've got the found up and Kaggle. Startups are built on Kaggle, found ups are built on Kaggle, right? So Kaggle is proof of benefit. Kaggle is a finite agency. Let's talk about Kaggle. Right now, everything is built on growth. Kaggle is based on benefit and asks three things. How is you as an individual? Everything doesn't have a Kaggle score, just like everything has a credit score, right? You have a credit score that's built on Kaggle, right? How is what you're doing, what your corporation, what your business impacting the planet, its living systems, and in sharing with others? Okay, that's the three metrics things. These things are going to be determined by algorithms that basically look at data, machine learning, obey, right? Open beneficial AI will determine this, and everything will have a score. Now, instead of having markets, you don't need markets. We will have our own exchanges, but there'll be Dano exchanges. And the difference between a Dano exchange is they're non-volatile. Each Dano is a decentralized autonomous nonprofit organization. Danos replace exchanges, okay? Danos ultimately are also evaluated by Kaggle. So they're looking at how are you benefiting. And what Danos are doing is returning 100% of the net profits back to the system. And the sharing could be creating UBIs, the sharing could be paying for education, the sharing could be lots of things you're sharing, right? The cool thing about Danos is there aren't any owners of a Dano. The Danos are owned by the stakeholder. Who are stakeholders? You are the stakeholder, right? Anyone who participates in a Dano is a stakeholder. So there is no board of directors. There's no CEO. They all get replaced by someone as delegates. Delegates come and go based on it. And the whole society then is built on these Danos and replace. And ultimately, Danos are what? Helping the planet. So they're, if the project is helping, put back, let's find some of our blocks here. Obviously, fracking and everything isn't going to be part of Danos, right? It's not sustainable, right? But actually cleaning up water and making it available to folks, that's something that Danos will encourage and bring about. You know, all of this red stuff, banks and all this stuff, which built in CAGR, are all gone in this new economy. But ultimately, revitalizing our forests with permaculture and everything else would be, you know, important to, you know, to the Danos. And I can't find the blocks because they all tipped over. But they're around here somewhere. Here's a, right? So, no, I can't find my blocks because they're everywhere. There they are. Well, they're kind of green, right? You get the idea. So the whole new society is built on helping and revitalizing, and it's just a piece of code. My name is Mike Trout. I've been working on this project since 2010. What are we missing to make this a reality? Number one is funding. Folks who would be interested in joining me in developing the whole CABR algorithm and code. That's what I'm pretty much working on. I'm working on a book right now that explains all this. Very simple. This was a very simple explanation. Ultimately, my position is this. I'm either going to find someone to help me fund it, or I'm going to fund it myself. But I have to wait for the Bitcoin to go up quite a bit for me to fund it, but eventually it will. And so eventually I will. So it's just a matter of time for us to be able to put things back and to heal the planet. My only concern is, do we have time? I don't think we do. But, you know, all I can do is make videos and tell you what needs to happen. What you need to do is to help me bring it about, right?